Hi guys, Tony here from Tony Reviews. This week a little bit different. I am filming down on the beach. I've filmed this now about 3 times and what I've noticed is I'm frowning, but it's because the sun's out, so I'm not complaining. But the thing is, I've forgotten my glasses back up in the van and it is a massive trudge up a hill. So unfortunately you're just going to have to put up my accentuated frown line from the sun casting a shadow in this deep line that I'm squinting at. But I haven't got the hump. It's just the fact that I'm trying to sort of block out the intensity of the sun. Anyway, back to business. This week we are going to look at the Dometic CRX50 compressor fridge. I'm going to do a real life review on how it performs in UK weather, and that has been totally changeable this week. We have gone from torrential downpours to overcast days to intermittent sun to bright, massively bright sunshine days like this. And I'll show you, and the fridge is only using the consumption of my leisure batteries, my two 12-volt leisure batteries with a 120-watt solar panel on the roof. So I'm going to show you the solar charge controller, the amount of charge that the compressor fridge is taking, and how it's performing, how often it kicks in, what settings I'm using, how it's worked with the contents in the fridge, what sort of stuff I can fit in the fridge. So if all that sounds like something you want to know more about, exciting I know, stay tuned and let's just roll the B-roll. So before we get started on what we've got in the fridge, I thought we could go through a little brief quick user guide. Now, when you first get the fridge, the way you install it is you've got these little lugs here. You take these out, you've got 4 of them, and you screw straight through into your cabinet, so it's sort of held in place. So that's where mine are there. These wooden battens, this is screwed in. Then you've got 4 extra little lugs that you get, and you can pop those over the top. When you look on the outside of the fridge, there isn't any actual holes for that, so you are actually screwing through the fridge. Now if we look at the buttons here, the control panel, this button, when you push it like you do any sort of device for, you know, a couple of seconds, it will go on, and if you push it again it will go off. If you look here, you've got a little triangle. Now that little triangle, when it flashes, will indicate that there's a problem, and if you go to the Dometic website, it will have a whole host of sort of stuff about how many blinks that little light will blink to what the problem might be. So I won't go into that because there's quite a few. This little thing here is the compressor. When it's blue, it means the compressor's running, so it's working to get the fridge cold. When it's orange, it basically just means the compressor's not running. Don't think that it's a problem with the fridge. It just means the fridge is at its temperature that you've asked it to be at, and it's not now running, it's reached that temperature. Up here you've got the temperature that you want it at. So number 1, sort of coldish. 2 is pretty much the temperature that you probably will use it at most of the time. Number 3 is if you want it a little bit cooler. So like I mentioned a million times, I've got ice lollies in there, and I've also got ice forming inside the freezer now. If you're going to have ice lollies, you will want it on number 3. Number 4, I believe, is if you want it like a freezer, pretty much. So the whole thing's a freezer. So if you take this compartment out, you slide it out, the whole thing can become a freezer. And this button, if you push it for 3 seconds, you hold this down for 3 seconds, it will ignite this one, and this is like a fast cool mode. So if you want to get the fridge cool really quickly, say you're going away and you're like, oh, I forgot to turn the fridge on, you could do that and it will get the fridge to a cooler temperature quicker. The other little handy thing that I found is with this shelf, it does actually, it can, there's a little section in there, if you can see, that can lift up. So if you had some taller items that were on this shelf, you can actually lift that up and that can poke through to the whole thing. So that's good. That little section of shelf is an extra little bit there. Yeah, and like I said, it goes a real long way back, so you can fit tons in there. The other little thing is you get this little drain plug. you get this little drain plug. You know, like in a fridge you get condensation and you get liquid like the water and you need to drain it out. You've got this little lug as it comes as an optional extra. I've read the instruction manual and it basically says you don't need to fit it. It's not an actual thing that you need to fit. You would also need to fit a hose to it, and it doesn't come with a hose. But the way that I've looked after the fridge at the moment is whenever I'm not using it and I've powered it off, and obviously any sort of moisture then turns into like water, I just wipe it all out, clean the fridge out as well with some you know, little spray fluid to keep it nice and fresh, and then put the vent on. So this is the vent. When you're not using it, you just switch it to that, which says vent embossed on that. You'll go like that, and it keeps the fridge ajar so that it can breathe. Okay, so we're currently away. The weather's not fantastic, it's quite grey, which means the solar is picking up what it can. Now at this point the fridge, the Dometic CRX50 fridge, has been on for 2 days. This is the start now, today will be the 3rd, and as you can see the current voltage of the batteries there is 12.47. That's what's coming in off the solar, 0.3 amps. Now this is where we are at the moment, 12.46 volts in the batteries, so they're pretty much full, but they can go slightly higher to keep them really full. Now the fridge at the moment, I'll just give you a little look. Now this is what we've got in there. It's fully stocked. I've got everything you can think in there. I've pretty much got breakfast and dinner, and when I say breakfast I mean a full English fry up, and dinner, and I've got the bottom packed out with veggie stuff. I've got meat in here, I've got cakes, I've got sausages, bacon, steak, lamb chops, again cakes, ham, cheese, butter, and in the freezer it's full of ice lollies, and as you can see they are proper, look, you can see the ice on there, they're proper icy. I've got the fridge on level 3, because what I've found is if you have the fridge on level 2, ice lollies are sort of more like a milkshake. So if you want them icy, you've got to turn it up to number 3. What this little button means is the compressor's on. Now what I've found overnight is, let me check I'm not covering the mic. What I've found overnight is if you set the level to number 3, so like you've got ice cream or lollies in the fridge and you want them to be solid like an ice lolly, the compressor is working harder, so it is switching on every few minutes to keep it at that temperature, probably every 20 minutes or so. The great thing is the fridge doesn't make a lot of noise, but obviously, can you hear that? You know, that's the little fan that comes on. You can sort of hear it. You can get away with the fridge being on number 2 if you're not having ice cream in the freezer. Number 2 is completely fine. But the point of this is that in the amount of consumption that the fridge is actually taking, I've got a 140 watt solar panel on the roof. It's very overcast. The fridge has been on for 2 days, and yet the battery is still pretty much fully charged. If the sun was to come out, I reckon those batteries would be fully charged. But what I'll do is I'll keep like a daily update for a few days just to sort of show you what the consumption is. So if we go back into the app just to refresh ourselves and see where we are. Really like the Victron app, by the way. The current battery is on 12.45 to 46 volts. And we can see the solar has only got 2 watts or 1 watt, between 1 and 2 watts of solar power coming in. So we know it's a pretty overcast day. But yet the batteries are still sort of fully charged there. These are the batteries I've got, which are 2 100 amp hour UASA batteries, and they are linked in parallel, I think it is, where I've got negative to negative, positive to positive, and then I'll run, so the fridge is basically connected to that negative and that positive, which makes that one big battery. So yeah, that's the current state of play. So today is the start of day 4 of using the fridge, morning 4. It is still fully stocked. It was a torrential day yesterday of rain, so I spent most of the time in the van. The weather was absolutely horrendous. It was just a torrential downpour, so the solar wasn't really pulling much in at all. I think the batteries yesterday went down to about 12.4 volts or 12.45 volts. The fridge is still on number 3, it's still got lollies in it, so it's still icy. I noticed the compressor's coming on less, so it must have reached a temperature that's sort of keeping it very, very cold. Although I spent all day in the van most of the day yesterday, so I was in here cooking, eating, getting stuff out of the fridge, all that sort of business. Not that I want to make you jealous, but this is today. This is where we are, and the sun is lovely. It's pulling in some sunshine through there, as you can see. So this is the Smart Solar MPPT charger, the Victron charger, and as you can see the battery voltage is now 13.25 volts. I mean, that's what we're pulling in off the solar. If I just show you yesterday, that's what we pulled in. We barely recycled any energy at all, but it's coming up nice today. But just to sort of show you, that fridge barely pulls any energy at all. I mean, like I said, I was in here all day. It was a horrendous day weather wise, so I wasn't pulling much back into the system. So yeah, all looking good so far. I'll keep you updated. Today was morning 4, we'll see what happens on day 5, but it should be good, hopefully, fingers crossed, because we've got a nice little bit of sun coming through for the solar to recharge those batteries. So, morning of day 5, and before I tip that, hang on. Morning of day 5 on the fridge. It's a very overcast grey day, as you can sort of see outside. It's not looking great. The solar is still currently pulling 17 or 18 watts. Our current level on the batteries is 12.56. Now that is not because of the fridge, that is mainly because yesterday I activated the inverter and I charged my laptop up, which was on 70% up to 100%, because I knew I had meetings and stuff. Plus I was charging all my other devices. I had the GoPro on charge, I had the phone, the iPad, everything was on charge. At the time I had some lights on. So with all that in consideration, the fridge is still fully stocked. The ice lollies, let's have a little look. Still fully stocked, as you can see. The ice lollies are still icy. Even a bit of ice come out there, look at that. We've only really sort of dropped 1 volt, and we've been away now for 5 days, and I think when the sun comes out, hopefully we'll check it back. Hopefully day 6, at the end of day 5, if the sun does come out, we can put a bit of power back in those batteries, but I'll let you know and see how we get on. Okay, day 6 of the fridge. All the food is currently pretty much been used. I've done a big cook up yesterday, used a lot of stuff. I'm just eating an ice cream. Lovely sunny day, a little bit overcast ish, a little bit cloudy, not overcast, cloudy. But this is where we currently are on the solar. We're currently pulling in 102 watts off the panel. It's a 120 watt panel. Batteries, as you can see, are at 13.21 volts or 13.16. Let's look at the history. Yesterday again was another sunny day, so if you have a look at what we've recycled, our maximum, let's have a look, our maximum was 13.15 volts and we went down to a minimum of 12.19. Today our minimum was 12.28 and our maximum battery charge was 13.27. So yesterday I used quite a lot of power. I used the inverter, had a meeting, a 2-hour meeting on the laptop. But this is the current state of play in the fridge. I've just turned it down to number 2, and that is because yesterday when I got the veg out of the fridge, I noticed that the broccoli was sort of frozen at the ends. And also I took a can of Coke down the beach, and in the bag the Coke had exploded, so I didn't want it to get too cold. I've got another can of Coke in here. It's absolutely frozen. Well, it's not frozen, but it's cold. But look, as you can see, the fridge is starting to get some ice on it, so I don't want it to get too icy. I've turned it down. I've now put it on number 2, so that's 6 days of the fridge being on number 3. and that's just the normal British UK weather. We've had a few cloudy days, a few chilly days. The temperature's quite hot today, although there's some sort of sea mist that's come up, so it's not too hot, but it is, you know, it's a nice sort of temperature. It's nice enough to walk around in shorts and t-shirt out there. So yeah, that's currently where we are. That's 6 days currently of the fridge on number 3, now turning it down to number 2. Day 7, final day that I'm going to monitor this fridge. Again, weather has been completely changeable. As you can see, it is a beautiful sunny day outside, and today, so this is the 2nd day of turning the fridge down. So let's just have a little look. It is now on number 2. It's been on number 2 for, this is the day, 2nd day. I've just put that in there just briefly, just to cool down, but as you can see, the ice is still on the freezer. So it hasn't melted, even though it was on number 2. I did have some lollies in there, but I ate those today because it is a very hot day. Let's have a little look on the solar and see where we're at. So we're currently pulling 73 watts. Batteries are fully charged, 13.68. Let's have a little look at the history. We can see our maximum battery charge was 14 volts, minimum was 12.6. So the fridge is running. Now it's on number 2, it's definitely kicking in less, which is nice, because it, you know, in the night when you are sort of, if you're sleeping very lightly, it's kicking in quite a lot of the time. It's not woke me up yet, but I think if you were a light sleeper it could potentially. It's very light though. It's, you know, you'd have to be a very light sleeper I think for that to wake you up. But yeah, it's working less hard now because obviously the compressor's not having to come on as much. So that's where we are. 7 days of using the fridge in real UK weather. We've had everything. We've had absolute torrential downpours, we've had overcast days, we've had bright sunshine days, we've had cloudy days. So we've had a little bit of everything, and the batteries have done absolutely amazing. The fridge has done amazing. We've actually accumulated ice in the freezer. When it was turned up to number 3, we had a full fridge stocked with ice lollies, which none of them melted, but number 2 is absolutely fine and should do you okay. It only if you've got ice lollies, but I think if I was to do it again, I would probably have it on number 3 for a certain amount of time and then turn it down to number 2. So I hope you found it helpful. I'm going to leave it there. There's things that need to be done down on that beach. So I ventured a little bit closer to the sea on this one. Hopefully the waves are not making too much of a noise in the background, but then again, saying that, I think you'd all much prefer to hear the waves crashing on the beach than my voice droning on about a Dometic CRX50 compressor fridge. But anyway, if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, a like. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and share it if you think it's going to be useful to somebody else. If there's anything in the video that you think I've missed or you want to know more about, please put it in the comments below, and if I do know about it or I think I can help, I'll be happy to answer. If you haven't yet checked out the Let Us Live website, go to letuslive.co.uk. It's a website inspired by motorcycles and adventure, so if any of those things tickle your fancy, you'll be sure to find something on there that's going to float your boat, I'm sure. And if you put Tony Reviews in the checkout, when you go to the checkout, you get a small discount there as well, so you can't really go wrong, can you? In the meantime, all that's left for me to say is safe riding, safe driving, happy adventures, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all on the next one. This is the bit I was talking about. Oh, this is why I was frowning and I didn't get my sunglasses. This trudge.